This is another one I relate to. Perhaps other dog owners will as well. Imagine this. You're out with your dog, on the lead, trotting along, quite happy, minding your own business, when another dog comes bounding over to say hello. That's always what the owner says, isn't it? He just wants to say hello. And your dog is going, well, I don't want to say hello. But whether or not your dog wants to say hello is irrelevant. And you're left trying to sort of shield it from unwelcome advances, you know what I mean, sniffing bottoms and things, or trying to make a quick getaway. So we're going to speak to Zoe Blake. She's a dog owner. She's also a veterinary nurse, and she would like to see a new code of etiquette between dogs. She's launched a new social media campaign, and she joins me now. Good morning, Zoe.
Good morning, Kaye. How are you?
I'm very well indeed. As I say, I really relate to this one. My little dog is quite a shy little flower, and we're trotting along with her lead, and there's nothing annoys me more than, you know, the other dogs coming up, just saying hello.
I know, it happens all the time, sadly.
But then am I being unsociable? Is my dog just being unsociable?
No, it's quite natural for them to feel anxious. They're kind of fight, flight or freeze. So when you've got a dog on the lead, it's automatically feeling a bit vulnerable. If they've got issues from past experiences, if they're young, if they've had surgery, they're feeling a bit protective, slightly unwell, they can suddenly feel that apprehension of someone's approaching me. Okay, what do I do? Okay, well, I can't run away, so I might have to fight this.
All right.
And I've got a rescue dog who is lovely, placid in every way, but he sometimes can be reactive on the lead just because he just feels a little bit vulnerable.
So you might see a situation whereby you've got your dog on the lead, another dog bounds over, your dog feels threatened and kind of either barks or growls or worse, and you're kind of the bad guy.
Exactly, that's right. And it's not really any fault of his. And so I now seek training, help and advice, and I've got my own ways of dealing with that. So it shouldn't happen. So I have a pocket full of treats, and as soon as a dog or I foresee a situation occurring, he actually is now focused on me as soon as he sort of sees an advancing dog. Mm-hmm. And so I start to treat him, and I have got a leave command, so he doesn't tend to fuss too much about it. And he's not so nervous. I think a lot of dogs are nervous of the situation.
Yeah.
And the owners, rightly so.
So sorry, Zoe. I was just going to say, so, I mean, that's your own way of dealing with it. And presumably as a veterinary nurse, you know, you've got your dog owner experience and also your professional experience, so you've found a good way of dealing with it. What made you want to actually have a campaign about this?
Okay, so I was out for a nice family walk over New Year, and we'd come across the same family and a pair of dogs a couple of times on our walk. And again, I dealt with it as I would. We came back towards the car. It was quite an open area with lots of families, kites being flown. And I suddenly heard to the side of me a dog fight. Now, I don't know if you've ever heard a dog fight. It's quite a scary, even for myself, it's quite a scary noise to hear. There was screaming. So I naturally ran over. They didn't know how to get the dogs apart. Somebody actually threw a poo bag in the direction of the dogs. But that actually was enough to startle them, and they broke apart. Now, I immediately went to the dog that had been bitten. Checked it out. In the background, there was quite a lot of altercations going on, and I ignored that at the time. The dog was fine, and I just heard someone saying, there's blood, and then there was, it's the owner's blood. So the family with the dog, who I then realised was one of the dogs I'd previously seen that was harassing my dog slightly, they kind of wandered off with a lot of, voices shouting at them. The other couple that had the dog that had bitten the other dog, they walked off, and I walked back to my family and felt quite guilty that I had gone to the dog that had been bitten, as I naturally would, but I didn't know the situation fully. And I actually caught up with the other pair of, there was 3 people actually in the car park, said, were they okay? Sadly, the man had been bitten quite badly. He'd obviously foreseen the situation. They had asked the family to take their dog away about 10 times and said, can you keep away? Can you take your dog? Can you take your dog back? And sadly, it was ignored, or maybe the dogs didn't recall when they were calling them. And so sadly, as the man put his hand down to try and stop anything happening, he got bitten right through to his bone.
Oh, gosh.
So I gave him first aid advice and checked their dog was okay, and obviously spoke to them, and they were quite frustrated and upset because they say they keep their dog on the lead because they know it can be a bit reactive.
Yeah.
And they warned the other family that potentially could happen, and sadly on this occasion it did.
Yeah, and I can just imagine, because people who do have dogs that go off the lead easily and perhaps they feel they can recall them easily, or they might say, well, he's very friendly, so they don't think that, they think, well, because my dog's friendly, there isn't going to be a problem here. We've also got with us Elaine Henley, who's a clinical animal behaviourist. Good morning to you, Elaine.
Good morning.
Good morning. You can see exactly how these situations unfold. And in the instance that Zoe gives, the family who had their dog on the lead, trying to do the responsible thing with their dog that they know can be a bit snappy, turns out to be, can be portrayed as the bad guys, if you like.
Absolutely. Firstly, congratulations, Zoe, for this campaign. It's very much needed. And the Association of Pet Behavioural Counsellors fully support what you're doing. We've been discussing your campaign amongst ourselves, because this situation that you're describing, it's played out in every single park, in every single town, every single day. And there's far too many out-of-control dogs out there that are being allowed to race up to other dogs, other people. The caregivers cannot call them back, and there's too many dogs being traumatised, frightened to go for a walk, or not enjoying their walk because of these out-of-control dogs. In Scotland, we have the Control of Dogs Act, which our local authorities now have the power to be able to take action against persistent offenders, but education is very much needed. Let's educate the caregivers that socialisation is just that your dog isn't worried by a member of its own species or a other. You don't have to be running around in a park racing up to other dogs in order to be socialised.
Well, I mean, it also takes you back to that thing about whether or not, when a dog should be on the lead or not. I mean, funnily enough, a friend of mine, I keep my dog on the lead kind of 95% of the time. There's one particular part of a park that is totally enclosed, and it's a dog walkery park, so I will let her off there, but the rest of the time she is on the lead. And my friend says, oh, you're cruel to that dog, you should let that dog off the lead more. And there is that debate that goes on as well, isn't there?
Absolutely. I think if you're in a safe place, dogs should be off lead, but dogs should be within 5 to 10 metres of you so that you're able to recall them. And if you can't call your dog back first time, then they shouldn't be off lead. We go back to our professional dog walkers in parks, letting a group of dogs off to go and mug, and there's no absolute control. And I've been working with lots of caregivers in lots of parks whereby those dogs are frightened of other dogs. And persistently, we've got our dog on the lead, and people are letting their dogs race up to them and then drawing my clients dirty looks when their dog is reactive.
So, Zoe, what's the campaign? What are you suggesting? I mean, would the easiest thing be just for everyone to keep the dogs on a lead?
No, I totally agree that they should have time to be able to relax, enjoy themselves, have some fun. My dog's a deer chaser, so like you, he does live on the lead 95% of the time. I have a couple of safe zones where there are no deer, and we have a good time off lead. But I think sadly some dogs, from unsocialisation, having bad experiences when they're younger, maybe do have to stay on the lead. But I think it's just everybody being aware, and non-dog owners. I've had a lot of feedback from people saying, oh, children are running up to dogs without there being any sort of responsibility of maybe checking that's okay. Walkers without dogs, having dogs running up, jumping all over them. I think there just needs to be a general common sense, initiative
I think
approach.
Well,
You're
sorry, just before you
absolutely
come, Elaine, sorry, just before you come in and please do, but it's just a text that came in. Somebody saying, I was in a park a couple of weeks ago. One woman got really angry with me because I didn't stop to let her pat my dogs. They were both on the lead minding their own business. And she shouted at me, you shouldn't own dogs that look like that if you don't let people pet them.
Oh,
Oh, goodness me. And her dog might have been one of those poor dogs that says, just stay away from me. Just stay away. Keep your hands to yourself. I think the big message is that we get dogs to have fun with their own dogs. We shouldn't be sharing them out. We shouldn't be expecting them to run up to other people and dogs. And when we're out in parks, we should be entertaining our dogs ourselves rather than allowing our dogs to run and entertain themselves. It's supposed to be about a team. It's supposed to be about having some fun with your own dog. And when you engage with your own dog, then they don't want to run away from you.
Well, I'm getting quite a few texts on this. Give us a call if you want to speak about this. 08085 92 95 00. You can text 80295. Lynn says, I'm very familiar with this chat about dogs. One of mine is a bit reactive, so if I see dogs coming, I always put them on the lead. The other owner is always so defensive about their dog just wanting to say hello and letting them come right up to mine, who I've put on the lead, and then shouting at me if my dog snaps. You can't win. Mary says, I love my dog, is very obedient. I hope this campaign doesn't prevent my lovely black lab from taking its exercise, which is needed. Within 5 to 10 metres, rubbish. Don't punish the good dog owners because of the bad owners. Oh, you can feel the tension coming there, Zoe, can't you? My dog would never hurt anyone. Why can't my dog roam around? What's the problem with my dog?
yeah. The problem is, I think, is if a dog has to have surgery, as I see quite a lot, then they're on a lead through no fault of their own. And maybe at that time, where they would normally be absolutely fine, they may suddenly decide that actually I don't want that advancement because I'm protecting myself of an injury or a surgery.
Yeah, it's fraught, that one. But
it is difficult.
Zoe, I think take the lead, and a bit of etiquette, a bit of mutual respect never goes wrong, does it? Just to make people a little bit aware that maybe that dog is on a lead for a particular reason and it might not want to say hello.